Good morning. Good morning, everybody. It's Misha. I talked to you about insulin resistance because I was able to change my health story. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physician. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm just a real world woman who got failed by all of those when nobody was able to figure it out. I was able to find something that helped me understand the root cause of why I was so sick. And so, what I'm really here for is to help you change your health history or health story as well by understanding what's really causing us to be sick. And it involves everything up there, and it's considered to be the root cause of everything up there. And yet, insulin resistance is never really addressed in the doctor's office. So, I want to start out by saying, how many of you have ever had a doctor um, diagnose you with insulin resistance? Or probably the better question is, how many of you have never had the conversation about insulin resistance with your physician? If you've never had your doctor talk to you about insulin resistance, put a 1 in the chat for me or hit the heart so I know that you hear me and that you're tracking along, because insulin resistance is super important in our health. It's one of the reasons why we're not getting better, why we're not understanding what we really need to do to be healthy, and why we're staying sick. So I want to talk about a number of things this morning. Thank you for the hearts. I hear you, I see you, and welcome in Dat250, Octavio, Gallo. You guys, welcome in. We're going to talk about insulin resistance, but I want to precede it with a couple of things, because some people have talked about, the information I give. Now, look, the information I give comes from authors like Dr. Ben Bickman. You'll see the books behind me, maybe. But the number one book I would actually ask you to read is called Why We Get Sick by Dr. Ben Bickman. He goes over everything about insulin resistance, or primarily in brief form, so you can understand what's happening with you and why all of this stuff is linked in to insulin resistance. He also tells you how to get better from it. Now, he has a second book out called How Not to Get Sick, where he very briefly covers insulin resistance, but then he gives you exercises and diet, not diet, recipes and whatnot. He teamed up with a nutritionist. So both books are amazing, but that's where primarily the information comes from. However, I lean into doctors like Dr. Fung and a number of others you may or may not have heard about. But the bottom line is, the information I get from them is real. They're guys who are working in the field all the time. Now, not everybody wants to sit down and listen to them. I do. So then I just bring it to you guys. But what I want you to understand before I get into everything else, let's just have a little bit of a mindset shift. How many of you guys think that we're not always told the truth by mainstream media? And I'm not talking about all the political stuff. I'm just talking about, when we're talking about science and our health. How many of you guys believe that everything you hear from mainstream media is it? Because they're the big dogs, right? They're the ones who should know. They're the ones who have all the resources. And yet, I don't feel like we're getting good answers from them. There's a reason why. The biggest source of advertising dollars for mainstream media, your news outlets and the TV outlets, is, can anybody take a guess? What, I still have paint on my fingers from painting my kids' house. Can you guess what industry provides the most advertising dollars to all of this mainstream media that you are watching, reading, hearing? Does anybody know? Can anybody guess? Can you type it in if you think you know? And welcome in Jemima, Jenny, you guys. Sick people are customers, not patients. Pharma harms. Okay, right. Sick people are customers for pharma. So big pharma, all of these medications that are wondrous and you're being told all these amazing things about, they're the number one contributor to those advertising dollars for mainstream media. So when it comes to a system or a protocol that's more natural, that doesn't require you to use semaglutide or Ozempic or metformin or statin drugs or any of that, do you think that the mainstream media wants to push those out because it's in direct opposition from their biggest dollar contributor. That's why we're not hearing about most of this. That's why you're hearing all these great things about GLP-1 drugs and all of the other medications. They have to tell you some of the side effects. So at the very end, they have this little tiny script where they have somebody just like trailing off at the end saying, you may find a risk of blah, blah, blah. Well, wouldn't it be better to have something that gives your body what it needs without all of those side effects? Because if it would, hang out with me, because we're going to talk about that. And Katrina, thank you for that answer, because you're absolutely right. When we're sick, when we're fed the wrong foods, when we're not given the right information, we're sick and we're buying more medications. And medications can be life-saving. I'm not going to say that they're not. They have a place in time. But it's just like saying cupcakes are food. So we should have cupcakes every day, all day long, because they're food. So we need them all the time. We don't. We need proper nutrition. And medications are the same. They're great when we absolutely need them. Like, for instance, when I was septic a couple of years ago from a gallbladder blockage or a gallstone blockage, and I was about 2 hours from dying, damn straight, those antibiotics saved my life. So they have a place. But in our day-to-day health, with what's going on with our health, there are not the issue. We are not sick because of a lack of medication. And yet, that's how we're being handled and treated. Eat all the food you want, do all the stuff, just come to us for the medications when you're sick. And let's just continue to create more medications for the symptoms that those medications cause. Enough of that. But what we're hearing in mainstream media is either clickbait, because they want you to stay and watch. They want you to be like, "Ooh, what's this? What are they talking about? I want to hear it." Or it's highly addressed towards what big pharma's needs are. We need to understand that. Thank you for the loves, because I think we all get this, right? So now, what we want to understand is insulin resistance. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about like GLP-1, because you guys, what I want to promise you is this. If I say something today, it's because the science and what I've known today is absolutely supporting what I'm saying. But if science comes out and says, "Ooh, hey, we got that wrong," I'm going to come back and say I was wrong. I'm not going to continue to tell you things that are not correct. One of the places I've been confused is insulin and glucagon and their roles in the body. Not really confused about their primary roles, but confused about some of the finer details. So we're going to go over that, and I'm going to explain a few things. Okay. So what I want a lot of people to understand today is that people with diabetes type 2, and you're headed there if you have insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is the precursor to diabetes type 2. But if you have insulin resistance, you may also have glucagon resistance or a glucagon dysregulation. We're going to talk about those two hormones. Sorry for my raspy voice. And what they're doing in your body and how you can start to regulate that even more and start to feel better all the way around. Okay, so we know that we're not always, but predominantly we're lied to or led astray by mainstream media. So I'm going to drop information for you if you want to go check it out. There's tons of sources to go and check out. The NIH has a lot of published papers, but even on the NIH, National Institute of Health, you're going to find some old science that maybe says fat is bad for you. You're going to find some newer science that says fat is good for you. You're going to have the American Diabetes Association telling you that red meat is bad for you, and yet new science is showing, and doctors like Dr. Bickman and Dr. Fung are now saying that meats are actually very healthy for us. So where do you go, right? Well, what I'm going to tell you, and I invite you to understand, is that what Ben Bickman says is, if the mainstream media is telling you to do something, then almost exactly go and do the opposite, because then you might be on the right path. Okay. So lean on the real science and not just what social media or mainstream media is telling you. Now, again, I'm not a doctor, not a scientist, not a nutritionist. I worked in medical clinics and I watched what happened with doctors, and I had 2 family members who were big in big pharma, and I get all the stuff, right? I get it. But I'm not any of those things. I'm just a woman who got sick. None of those people could help me, and then I got better, and I've continued to get better. And so now we're going to talk about that. The alternative is natural. It's a system that's made up of two real food products. And I'll tell you about that now, but then just hang out for a minute, Tori, because I want to explain why this system is working. So I can tell you what it is, right? And you can find it in my profile up here. It's a tea that I have in the morning. You see me drinking it now. I have another tea in the afternoon, and I have a fiber before I eat. Why those two pieces are working, I will I will tell you in brief right now, and then we'll go back into some of the other things. You guys want to know what the solution is? Look, what's really happening for us is that, and then I'll get into the glucagon stuff. But what's really happening is we all understand. I think all of us understand that our food is imperfect and our food is greatly changed from what it used to be. When I listen to scientists who are masters in the field of genetics and what's happening with us and these genetically driven disorders, they're saying our genetics don't change as much as our bodies and our illness have changed in the last 50 to 60 years. Our genetics just don't change like that. So they're saying, so what happened? Well, what happened is we changed the way and the frequency of which we eat. Now, you would used to see, and it's interesting because I used to hear that certain populations liked heavy-set women because that meant that they had wealth. So when we look back in history, the only people who were eating every 2 hours and eating all of these carb-laden foods were people with more wealth. And so, yes, they were developing some form of insulin resistance, sugar resistance, because they were doing all the things that I'm going to talk about now. But it wasn't mainstream for people to eat that much. And so, yeah, we went from a society who saw plump people as desirable because it meant they had some kind of wealth or money, to now we're seeing it the opposite way. Well, why the majority of the population is having this problem is because we're eating every 2 hours. And in some cases, we're eating 16 times a day. In fact, scientists said, okay, we're going to look at the population who's been told to eat 6 small meals a day, basically every 2 hours. And we're going to track what they actually eat. 16 times a day, almost 3 times as much as they were supposed to be eating is what they were doing, because when they fall into this every 2 hours thing, they're just like, okay, I can snack all day because that's helping my metabolism. Because that's what you're told with the eating every 2 hours kind of method, right? It's helping your metabolism. It's turning you into a fat burning fuel person. It's doing all of this good for you. We're going to explain why that's not true in just a second. So, intermittent fasting, the tea helps me with intermittent fasting. And intermittent fasting, you guys, is not scary. We still eat a good amount. This is not calorie restriction. This is not calorie reduction. We're eating healthy, but we are focused on nutrients in an 8-hour window. And we're just not eating during the other 16 hours so that our body can go through a whole bunch of hormonal processes that make our metabolism work correctly. So number one is stop eating all the damn time. You don't need that popcorn at the 10 o'clock movie that you're watching. By the way, you should be sleeping. You don't need that snack in between your meals if you're getting good nutrition in during your meals. You just don't need all of that. That's where the calories in, calories out model starts to take effect, because when you're eating calories, it's not just the calories, it's the effect. And you guys, I did a blog post on Brilliant Health blog about calories in, calories out. So go read that if you have a moment. It's a short, maybe 5-minute read, but it will explain why that model is so flawed. What we're addressing is our hormones and the interplay between our hormones when we do fasting. It has not so much to do about the restriction of calories, but allowing hormones to do their job. So intermittent fasting is one part of this, the cure, right? The clue, the solution is intermittent fasting. But a lot of people will say, and give me some hearts or a number one, if you find or you feel like you couldn't do intermittent fasting because you're so food addicted, because you have these blood sugar swings, because you get sick or you get tired, or you start to have headaches, or you get hangry if you're not eating. Does that apply to anybody? Does anybody feel like, oof, I want to do intermittent fasting, but man, if I had to wait and skip my breakfast and not eat until lunch, I would be the crabbiest, most distracted person on the planet. Does anybody feel that way? Let me know. Hey, welcome in Ascending, and welcome in Charlotte, Constance. You guys, I am not a doctor or nutritionist. I'm just helping people understand what's really going on with their health. So most people feel that way about intermittent fasting, and you don't have to worry. The tea that I drink through a number of processes, and there is a video. Hey, good morning, Tammy. There's a video in my video log up above my profile that Dr. Huberman, I took away some of his like ums and ahs and off the track stuff, the same thing I do. But he talks about how this particular tea, and this is a very highly form of that tea, can shut down hunger both in the brain and in the gut. So now we're making it through intermittent fasting much easier because we just don't have the hunger cues. Our energy is coming into the brain, it's coming into the body. I want you guys to understand that hunger is your body's way of saying, I need energy, because every cell in the body needs energy. And if we're not getting the energy to it, then we're hungry all the time. So in insulin resistance, a number of your cells, including cells in the brain, start to shut down and are not able to get in the energy that they need so that you can function properly. So maybe you have enough energy coursing through your veins, as in glucose or sugar, but your body just can't get to it. And so now you have this hunger and this craving, and you're just can't seem to stop snacking. The tea is from Argentina. It's a very specific brand of tea. By the way, Lionel Messi drinks the tea in its not as concentrated form, and he drinks it at every meet. The Argentinian team flew in thousands of pounds of this tea for their competitions in soccer and football. Um, and we have Vladdy Jr., a baseball player who's completely changed his body composition, regained muscle, lost a lot of fat, improved his performance by doing the tea. And it's not just for athletes. And we do have a big name basketball player, primetime basketball player, who's using the tea as well. So a number of people are using it. Athletes love it because it does that. It changes the combination, it changes the composition of their body, allowing them to have more muscle, less fat. So the tea, you guys, is the name of the tea. Just go to my profile and the protocol is listed there. So it's a yerba mate tea. But why this tea is so much different is this. It goes through a specific process, this 5-step process that the other teas that are the same plant are not going through. So step number 1, we hand pick it. The farmers who we work with are well paid, so sustainably harvested and ethically harvested. But you're getting leaves at the highest point of potency. So the old leaves that are no longer efficacious are not picked, and the new leaves are not picked. It's the ones that they know, because they're the ones who've been doing this for years, pick that. Other companies are just going in and like raking in the leaves, and you're getting leaves and stems and all of that. Then we take it to a process where it's fire roasted to help release these molecules or components that we need from the bulk of the tea that we just don't need to package and have, but it's all naturally occurring molecules in the tea. Once those are released from the bulk, then we're extracting it, and then we concentrate it so that this one component, chlorogenic acids, over a bagged tea is about 375 times more potent, and over some of the other marketed teas is at least 20 times more potent in chlorogenic acids alone than other teas. So it's highly concentrated. But the gold for me is that we then take it to a process that removes pesticides and toxins. So now it's an extract. So you're not getting the bulk of the stuff that you don't really need. You're getting all of the molecules and vitamins and minerals that you do need. And it's extremely pure because those pesticides and toxins have been removed. And none of the other products on the market can claim all of that. So you'll get the tea in my profile link, and it does the system, the whole system. So 2 teas a day and 1 fiber a day. The whole system is about $5 a day. Now, so we'll cover that. And the second part is this fiber matrix that I have before my meals. Now, the tea, the reason we're doing the tea twice a day is, how many of you guys have heard of glucagon-like peptide, or GLP-1s? So semaglutide, Ozempic, Mounjaro, tirzepatide, all of these ides that people are injecting once a week to help with their blood sugars and their hunger. How many of you guys have heard of those drugs? Has anybody? Yerba mate. Yep, it's yerba mate tea, but it's very highly concentrated and purified. So that with this tea, we're getting about a 70% increase in the GLP-1 that we naturally produce in our body by just having a tea that's not causing your pancreas to shut down or your liver or your kidneys or your heart or your thyroid or freezing up your guts so much that you end up with gastroparesis and then have to go to the hospital to have that removed before it could be the end of you, right? So this tea doesn't do that like the drugs do. And we're going to talk about that why later. So I have a tea in the morning, helps me with satiety, helps me with sugar burning, helps me with ketone production, which means I'm burning fat for fuel. I don't even think about fasting. I am, again, every morning about this time, at about 15 and a half hours fasted. That's where I'm at today. So I'm coming up on 16 hours fasted and I'm still not hungry. I will eat sometime between 11 and 1, and then I will break my fast with this. We're going to talk about some nutritional advice first, and then I'm going to give you the other component of the protocol that I use. So we know intermittent fasting is important. While I'm giving you the 6 simple tips, has anybody heard about the study that said intermittent fasting increases the risk of death by 91%? Has anybody seen that clickbait article? Because we're going to talk about it. But so intermittent fasting, we know that's key. You want to get in fiber before you eat, every time you eat, especially when you're having carbohydrates. Fiber slows down the absorption of carbohydrates and lipids into the system so that you're better controlling your blood sugar. Fiber slows down the movement of food through the system so that, unlike what some people think, it actually increases nutrient absorption because stuff isn't just passing through like a high-speed rail train. Okay, it's more like a bicycle going through. You're still getting there, but the fiber is slowing that down so you have the best absorption of nutrients that you can get. Fiber first every time you eat. That's what I do. Then you want to prioritize protein. Most of us are not getting in enough protein. Protein doesn't spike your insulin as high as carbohydrates. Protein sticks with you longer. It helps you stay fuller longer. So you've got to get in enough protein. And enough protein for an average active 30s, 40s adult is about 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. So if you're currently 300 pounds and you want to weigh 150 pounds, you're not going to take in 300 grams of protein. You're going to take in about 150. That's a lot of calories though, right? That's a lot of calories. It's a good thing we don't count calories, right? Good thing we don't do that. Now, fiber first, prioritize protein, don't fear fats. What we really want to do is become fat burning machines. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. But when we're ingesting fat over sugar, we're telling our body we need to use fat for fuel. And by ingesting fat, we're helping our body to adjust to burning fat. Okay, we need to be clear about that. So fiber, protein, fats, FPF. Those are the first 3 things you want to do. Then, of course, you're going to limit your carbs. Bagged, boxed, barcoded carbs got to go first. Then, if you're still having carbs, make sure they're the natural whole food kind, like green beans, asparagus, Brussels sprouts, broccoli. Those above ground dark green vegetables are what you should be eating for your sugars. I limit fruits, and I had this conversation with my kids again last night because I noticed so much fruit juice in their fridge trying to feed my grandson healthier, who has a liver disorder, can't process fats. And I'm like, all that fruit juice is really damaging his liver. Please stop buying him fruit juice. So fructose can only be metabolized by your liver. Sorry, you guys, I don't have the chat up over here. Okay. So if anybody has a liver disorder, you got to cut back on the fruit. Just know that. Fruit has a lot of great components to it, some things that we need out of it, but we just don't need it in the amounts that we've been eating it because it causes damage to the liver and it causes the liver to work overly hard. And I've seen it with so many people who go on the fruitarian stuff and all of a sudden their liver's having problems. Yeah. But not so much as the people. Anyway, we'll get on that later. So fiber first, protein, prioritize, and don't fear fats, limit your carbs, do some intermittent fasting, and then move your body. Some ways that your body can become insulin resistant besides all the sugar is stress and inactivity. Okay. So We've got to sleep on time. We've got to continue to try and reduce stress, meditation, affirmations, um, gratitude, that all helps. And then move your body. So I went on a little walk this morning before the live, and I haven't done my full workout this morning. So I'll do that after the live. But you've got to work your body every day. And that is going to depend on where you're at in your health history. If you guys are very limited, please, in any level, you can go to YouTube and find a ton of creators who are putting out great information on moves and exercises that you can do to start helping yourself no matter what your fitness level is. So just utilize that, but move your body at least 30 minutes a day. Okay. So the second part of the system that I'm going to talk about, remember the first part is the T, that's helping with satiety. It's helping us with ketones and HGH, and it's getting energy to the brain, and it's helping us be able to utilize dopamine and serotonin more normally. And it's just giving us energy without the crashes, without the damage, and it's heart healthy. So there's one piece, right? The second piece is the fiber matrix that I have, or the pre-meal drink that I have before meals. It's included in the system. Why this? It's 7 different types of fibers all wrapped into one. And they're not just willy-nilly any kind of fiber, because every fiber has a different purpose in the body. These are specifically picked and blended fibers to help with blood glucose and blood lipid regulation, thereby affecting insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. But it can also help type 1 diabetics and everyone that's on the list up above. So you guys stop for a second and take a look at that list up above. Anybody in here having problems with stubborn weight, high blood pressure, brain fog, fibromyalgia? PCOS is a big one I've been talking about a lot the last few weeks because women want to know. But hypothyroid, hormone dysregulations, headaches, sleep apnea, diabetes, arthritis, vertigo. Like, is anybody experiencing vertigo? That's a weird one on the list, and I don't talk enough about it. But anybody else experience vertigo? Or maybe as you get older, you feel like you're just a little more dizzy than you used to be. Good morning, Connie. Thanks for joining in, Marlene and Tick. You guys, if you're having that kind of like ear disturbance, ringing in the ears, vertigo, understand that insulin resistance can be linked to that. Thank you. Thank you, Sherry. So look, she says fibromyalgia, insomnia, and trouble losing weight. So all of those are very closely linked to insulin resistance. In fact, most fibromyalgia, if it's not nerve damage or a spinal, column problem, which that is typically one of the causes of fibromyalgia, if you just have this body-wide pain, I used to say it felt like somebody stuck a vacuum cleaner to my belly button and sucked out all the energy, and all that was left was this body-wide pain and sometimes electrical sensations throughout my body, and I was tired. Like, it hurt to get up off of the couch. It hurt to walk to the bathroom, much less to the kitchen. It was just horrible. And insomnia. Couldn't get to sleep, and when I did get to sleep, I had sleep apnea waking me up 60 times an hour. So if you've got fibromyalgia, insomnia, and trouble losing weight, you're probably exhausted and frustrated and just, I don't know, I felt like giving up. I actually, at some point, because I had high blood pressure and all the other stuff, I just was like, God, I'm done. Can I just be done now? I would never take my own life, but I was just like, I don't need to do this anymore. This isn't what I signed up for. Does anybody else feel like your health and the way your body feels is not what you signed up for? Because that's how I felt. So yeah, everything hurts, Sherry, and that's pretty typical with fibromyalgia. And yet, so can you tell me, share with me or share with us, has your doctor told you or given you any source to help you with the fibromyalgia, much less the insomnia and the trouble losing weight? So we can get into those. But I'm going to tell you, in the doctor's offices I worked in, there was one big clinic in Portland, Oregon. They had like 7 satellite clinics, and so I floated to all of them. And doctors worked at different clinics. But one of the primary care physicians in that clinic, one of the owners, her and one of the others were in clinic one day, and somebody came in with symptoms of fibromyalgia. And one doctor said, okay, it's absolutely true. We got to get to the bottom of this. And the other doctor said, Fibromyalgia, this is her words, so please forgive me. She said fibromyalgia is a bunch of bullshit. It's a made up diagnosis to just give a name to something that we can't figure out, and that it's really not anything there. They're just complaining. So doctors have their different views on many of the things. Good morning, Nelda. But fibromyalgia, your doctor hasn't helped at all. Had 37 operations and developed fibromyalgia after. Okay, so that's a bigger piece to the story. So, Sherry, we always focus on, and I want to get back to insulin and glucagon in a second, but I want to, and Cheryl says no, also, no doctors ever talked to her about fibromyalgia. Thank you guys. So, what you need to understand with fibromyalgia is this very, very simple overview of this. Okay. With insulin resistance, your cells are becoming resistant to the cues from insulin, or just think of insulin like having a key. Comes to the cell and says, hey, cell, I have a package for you. That package is energy in the form of glucose. And so it unlocks the cell door. The cell says, oh, come on in. I need that package. And it delivers the package. With insulin resistance, the cell is no longer, the cell's changed the key, or the key's just broken and worn out, and it doesn't let the insulin open it up so that the package can come in. So now we have cells that are not getting energy. When all of this starts happening, we start to have problems with nerve function. The telomeres on the ends of your nerves are dysfunctioning. And so instead of having one nerve pathway relay to the other pathway directly messages, they're starting to fire out the sides of the nerves, and they're kind of going willy-nilly. So maybe you have an electric pain, but you just have this pain throughout your body and fatigue, because insulin is disrupting the natural processes of your nerve endings in your body. It's why we have some problems with vertigo, why we have migraine headaches. It's why we have some, well, that and some other vascular problems, or why we have things like gout going on and uric acid buildup. This is a small part of that. But that nerve reduction, that nerve malfunction can also start to slow down gastric emptying in a way that we don't want it, and eventually ends up in the same gastroparesis that GLP-1 drugs are causing, because insulin is so resistant in your body. So fibromyalgia is closely linked. And you mentioned insomnia. So two hormones that really work together to create, I mean, they should work together to create balance, but in today's world, we're yeah. Thank you, Sherry. I hope that made sense. I mean, it's very over, like it's like a big hot fly high flyby, but I wanted you to understand that. So insomnia, your brain is never shutting down. It cannot get those cues from serotonin, the feel good drug, and dopamine, that reward drug hormone. And you have this dysregulation where those are going off all the time. But there's also cortisol. When you have insulin resistance, it naturally raises your fight or flight response, increasing very slightly the amount of cortisol you have in your body. Now, your body isn't able to get into a rested state where you can just calm down. Just calm down. You are always constantly on edge a little bit, and now your brain is racing and you can't get to sleep. And then when you do get to sleep, maybe you're like me and you have some sleep apnea because you have a thickened tongue and you have some excess weight. And so now you're waking up. When you finally do get to sleep, you're waking up every, like for me, it was 60 times an hour. So at least once a minute, I was waking up, right? And that all has to do with cortisol dysregulation, but also fat that's built up in your tongue as a result of insulin resistance. Because insulin resistance not only cues you to start storing fat, and why? When the body isn't able to use the sugar that you're eating naturally in the cells, or we have too much, and they're tired of insulin knocking on the door, they start to become resistant, but the insulin still has a package to deliver. So I call it the storage unit of the body, and that's your fat cells. So when insulin cannot deliver that package anywhere else, then it's going to go to the fat cells and say, oop, you get it. You're going to get this. We're going to put it in storage for use for later. I got to run because this person's eating again, and we're going to have more glucose to deliver. So here, fat cell, take that package. But the primary place it wants to store fat is in your visceral fat. So Typically, people think of like from the neck to the butt, right? Underneath the muscle wall of the belly. That's when you start to get that big protruding belly. That's visceral fat being built up in there. But one thing people are missing is that that visceral fat actually extends up into your throat and in your tongue. And when you have that buildup, now you have a fat tongue that's falling in your throat, along with the cortisol dysregulation and the hormone dysregulation like thyroid and estrogen. And now you're having some insomnia. And when you do get to sleep, you can't stay asleep. And now you're exhausted and your fibromyalgia feels worse. And guess what? All of that lack of sleep is increasing your insulin resistance, making it worse. And then what was the other thing you mentioned? You said, oh, it's trouble losing weight. So if you're constantly having sugar in your system, and insulin can't get it to the cells because your cells have become resistant to it. And there's a number of reasons why they're resistant. And I can talk about that later. But now what happens is you're continually putting fat on. And insulin blocks fat breakdown. So we're going to get to this. Cheryl, right? It's like that was my life. Oh, so let me look up that one. I can't even say the word right. Trigeminal neuralgia. Okay. So I want to look that one up and I want to give you some more answers on that, but let me write it down. Okay, I'll try to do some research on that tonight and talk about it in the morning a little bit more directly. But I hope that gives you guys some answers. So basically, we're eating too often. We're eating foods that are turning into glucose too quickly because we've stripped food fiber out of our food. And at the same time, we're being told to eat more of these processed, bagged, boxed, barcoded fast foods that are making us sick. So let's pause for a second. Deep breath. If we know that a 2022, just 2 years ago, study said that 93% of us are insulin resistant, or what the study really said is that 93% of us have a metabolic disorder, lifestyle disorder, metabolic disorder. And when we understand at the root of metabolism is insulin, cortisol, glucagon, but insulin is the key, right? If we understand that that is the key to this metabolic dysregulation, this metabolic problem that we're having, 93% of us are having this problem. And then when we look at other doctors who are saying 95% of all of our disease and disorder today that's lifestyle related is linked to this metabolic disorder and insulin resistance. This is pretty big. This is why I'm talking to your life. This is why you guys resonate with this, because nobody's ever talked to you about it. It's like, here, have a pill. Lose weight, you'll feel better. Have either one of you heard that? Just lose weight and you'll feel better. And yet, you've tried. You've tried all this stuff. Look, I did veganism, I did keto, I did the medical medium stuff. I did so many things. My best friend Steph Koch, came over and like I had a big old Ninja, which I still have a Ninja, um, on my counter, but my fridge was full of like kale and spinach and wild blueberries, and I was having to go to the store every 3 days to get all of this stuff, right? And then I would make this big, thick green shake that I would have every morning, and I was slowly getting better, but not quick enough, because my A1C really wasn't going down. I was doing all the right things. So if you've been doing all the right things and you keep just getting told by a doctor, just lose weight and you'll feel better, they obviously are not taking into consideration why you gained weight. And outside of they think that, oh, you're just stuffing food in your face. You're eating donuts all the time and laying on the couch. That's the kind of vibe you get from your doctor, right? Like, ugh, this person, especially like I had a doctor who was going to do a hernia surgery, and she was tiny, petite, blonde. And when I came in the office, she literally rolls her eyes and like, ugh, this is just another person that is out of control and doesn't care and wants me to save her. And I've heard this. I've heard the talk behind the doors, guys. I've heard the talk behind the doors. The talk that happens when the patients aren't around. I've heard all of that. Okay, and I've been told a lot of that myself. So you guys got to understand that getting all of this under control is really the key to losing weight, and not just, oh, lose weight. If you don't understand what caused it, why you're not able to lose it, then you're going to have troubles getting it off. and understanding that insulin resistance is why you put the weight on in the first place is key to understanding how you're going to get over it. So stop eating every 2 hours, start doing some intermittent fasting. I eat two, sometimes I have 3 meals in a day if I need to focus on nutrition. I'm very focused on nutrition now, and the nutrition I focus on is simple. Did I get enough protein in the day? Did I get enough fiber in the day? And did I eat healthy fats for the day? Okay. And then carbohydrates come very last. Last night, not gonna lie, I wanted carbohydrates. So I ordered from Outback. By the way, it wasn't as good as I was anticipating, but I got Alice Springs chicken and a big baked potato because I felt like it, right? So I can do that once in a while, but I don't want to do it all the time. But that carb came after I ate all the protein. So that's part of it. Now, why the system works is the tea again is shutting down your hunger, helping you feel satiated, delivering vitamins and nutrients that your body just needs to stay feeling energetic and healthy. So you get energy, you get mental clarity, you get satiety, you get blood sugar regulation, you get heart health. There's components in this that are healthy for the heart, helped regulate my blood pressure. And that's the first thing we do. And then I have another one in the afternoon if I feel like I need a little bit more energy or pep for the rest of the day, or that I'm starting to feel hungry and I don't want to have 6 meals today. I have another tea in the afternoon. Again, it's not breaking my fast, it's helping support my fast, helping me support this fat breakdown. Then I have this before I do eat, and this is just that 7 different types. It's 7 different types of soluble and insoluble fibers, phytosterols, vitamins, and minerals that are all here because they're all specifically scientifically studied and designed to help your metabolism. So this is a metabolism system, not just a marketing system. Now, um, that fiber, it gels up in your gut. If you take it when you eat, it can reduce a blood sugar spike by up to 37%. A single source fiber will only reduce your blood sugar spike by about 10%. So almost 4 times the blood sugar regulation by doing this as opposed to one of those other drinks. That's worth my $5 a day right there. But I do have 2 of these a day because I have one before each of my meals. I like it not just for the blood glucose regulation. I like it because it's helping give me a more diverse and balanced gut microbiome. My positive microbiota are feeding on that. And your gut leaks out and addresses almost everything that we're suffering from. If your gut is inflamed and sick, you're inflamed and sick. So we want good gut health. You hear about it, and it sounds boring as FARC to most people, but it's the key to your health. You've got to get that healthy. So that's the system in a nutshell. Now I want to come back to glucagon and insulin. We're going to talk about fasting. We're going to talk a little bit about glucagon dysregulation, and because my mind has been going crazy for the past several months as I'm learning more about glucagon and trying to understand its role in our bodies. So let's talk about the intermittent fasting timeline, and I'm going to explain to you guys what's happening as you're fasting. So Kristen, Renee, Joanne, if you guys have questions, just let me know. I know you're just hopping in, and so you've missed part of this. More than happy. I'm Misha. I'm just helping disseminate information so people can understand how to get their health back. So intermittent fasting. Last night I had my dinner about 6 p.m., right? So it takes about 2 hours for your blood sugar really to spike and source all of that glucose and that energy from the food you ate. So your blood sugar doesn't, it's not like you eat a piece of cake and you take your blood sugar and your blood sugar is high right then. A couple of hours later is when you're going to get that peak of your blood sugar. Okay. Now, at this point, when your blood sugars are rising and your blood sugar's at that peak, it's signaling insulin to come out and do its job, which is to deliver that energy to the cells of the body. So if we can reduce that spike and have less insulin come out, now we're regulating how quickly that energy is going. And some of those rusty locks have time to be fixed. And so the insulin will get into the cells better when we're not inundating the cells with insulin all the time. Insulin is a direct response to high levels of sugar. That's 2 hours after you eat. About 4 hours after you eat, the blood sugar level starts to drop because insulin's been doing its job delivering that glucose to the cells of your body. But insulin in today's world, because we've been eating so much, because we eat so much bag box barcoded bull crud food that's full of carbohydrates and very little fiber, our insulin is staying out, saying this person's going to eat again. I got to be here and ready. And so your insulin level stays high up to 8 hours after. If you're insulin sensitive, by the way, if you're insulin resistant, it could be 10, 12 hours after you eat before that insulin level actually starts to come down. The higher you spike your insulin, the longer it's going to take for it to come down. Good morning. I can't even say your name. Hoping your packages arrives today. I hope so too. And if you ordered from me, please text me and let me know that you got it. And then we'll have a conversation while you have everything in hand so you can get started correctly. Okay. So now we're about 8 hours in, right? If you're already insulin sensitive, about 8 hours in, your insulin levels start to drop. Now, insulin and glucagon, I've always understood that they couldn't be in your system at the same time, but they can be. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But primarily in a healthy body, insulin drops. Now, when insulin is out, it's giving cues to inhibit glucagon because insulin is trying to store energy and glucagon wants to eat it up and start to deliver it back into the system. And insulin says, no, not on my watch. I'm storing it. Insulin is anabolic. Glucagon is catabolic. Anabolic meaning to make things grow. Catabolic meaning to break things down. Okay. So insulin starts to come down at 8 hours. Glucagon starts to come up at 10 hours in a normally functioning body. So this is where I've been confused, and I want to try and help explain this because I've really been diving into trying to get an explanation that I can understand, and I hope you guys do too. So when glucagon starts to come out and insulin is down, now insulin, when insulin is out, blocks fat breakdown, increases fat storage, wants everything to grow, right? So it's not going to let glucagon start breaking down fat. It's going to continue to store fat. When insulin comes down and glucagon goes out, glucagon really is trying to raise your blood sugar level up because now you have a lack of blood sugar because you haven't been eating it. So when the body senses insulin is down, oh, there's no more sugar coming in, we need energy, it tells your body to put out glucagon. But glucagon really is trying to increase your blood sugars. This is partly how, like when I did a 10-day fast, I tracked my blood sugars and my blood sugars would rise and fall. They would drop to about 60 and then they would rise back up to 120, even when I hadn't been eating, because glucagon is doing its job. Hey, we need energy. We're going to pull some out of the fat stores and it's going to start doing that. But the main place that glucagon starts working on is in your liver and the glycogen stores, which are packages of glucose all packaged together as a storage, put aside so that they can be broken down later and utilized for energy. So that typically happens, right? We start to remove that from the liver. We start to burn fat for fuel. We start to get energy back to the body by breaking down those stores back into an energy source the body can see and use. But what's happening with a lot of type 2 diabetics and people who are very highly insulin resistant is not only you have a high level of insulin causing you to be insulin resistant. Now what's happening is some of the insulin's clues to tell your body not to produce glucagon are broken. And so now you're producing glucagon and insulin at the same time. But glucagon is trying to increase your blood sugar. So your blood sugar is staying high and insulin is saying you can't break down fat cells. So glucagon is scavenging wherever it can to raise your blood sugars up. Hours after eating carbs, your biceps get hard and arms ache. Insulin resistance. The simple answer for me would be yes, but I'm not going to give you that simple of an answer. Let me do some research on that too so I can give you an intelligible answer. Why your biceps get hard and your arms ache. One of the first things I'm going to think about, some of the first things. Now, do you also work out a lot, LJ? Or is this just anything that you do, your arms ache and your biceps get hard? So you might be having a hydration issue. You might be having other metabolic issues, but let me look at that. But I'm also going to tell you, if you have hive only after eating, that's interesting. So my brain is going hard to work thinking about all the ways that insulin is trying to use energy and would cause your biceps to hurt. Biceps get hard. I hope I can read my writing there. And muscle arms hurt. Okay, so let me see if I can find a more direct answer for you, LJ, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. You're gluten intolerant, so cheating on gluten may do it. Yeah, absolutely. If you're gluten intolerant, cheating on that will create that. So can I give you some insulin resistance causes hair loss? Yeah. So if your body's not getting energy to the cells that it needs to be able to grow and do certain processes, yes, it will cause some hair loss, but and especially in women, it can cause male pattern baldness because it gives a dysregulation by inhibiting what's happening in the ovaries. And just again, a very flyby view of this because I talk about PCOS a lot. But one of the things that happens is all of our estrogens, estradiol, estrione, all of the estrogens are actually made from androgens like testosterone and DHA. So let's just simplify it and say testosterone, estrogen. With insulin resistance, you're not putting out enough of this aromatase in your ovaries that's allowing the transference of testosterone into estrogen. Those high levels of testosterone in women can cause male pattern baldness and hair loss. Absolutely. So, so there was another question, gluten intolerant. Okay, so I was gluten intolerant too. There's a lot of things that I contribute some of the gluten intolerance to. Like when I went to Europe, I didn't experience the IBS and the gluten intolerance and inflammation. And I do equate it to the fact that the wheat here in the US is highly drenched in glyphosates, uh, pesticides, and that leaches into our system. So is it really the gluten that we're allergic to or intolerant to, or is it the glyphosates that are stuck to the gluten that we're intolerant to? Either way, when I started getting my gut health better, when my gut wasn't overridden with negative gut microbiome, craving sugar and stuff, my gluten intolerance got better. My gut was healthier and is able to deal with gluten without all the inflammatory things that were happening to me before. So that's possible, right? So it's possible that in time your body changes and says, oh, some of these things that I was so allergic to or devastated by can start to get better. In fact, all of my allergies got better, including my environmental ones. Do I still have allergies? Yes. This spring I suffered because I'm in a new area. I moved from the West Coast to the East Coast, and so I'm not used to these out here, which can explain that. But I used to have eosinophilic esophagitis. I mean, I still do, but it's well maintained now, which means that every time I ate, if there were triggers in the food for allergens for me, my esophagus would completely shut off and I couldn't get anything into my stomach. So it would all back up in my esophagus, end up in this horrible choking, throwing up thing that would break veins in my arms and in my chest. And it was life threatening. I don't have that anymore. I used to go to a restaurant and sit next to the bathroom, and I would always have to sit on the outside because if something happened, I needed to be able to get up, get out, and move because I didn't want everybody traumatized by my condition. And it was about a year ago I realized I'm no longer doing that. I'm no longer scouting for where's the bathroom. I need to be seated there, and I have to sit on the outside so that I can get up and run and not traumatize everyone else. That's pretty freeing from a tea in the morning, a tea in the afternoon, and a fiber before I eat. That's all that changed it, you guys. I didn't change much else. So, as I said last week when I first found you, so glad I found you. Pray my package arrives today. LJ, I hope it arrives today too. And I look forward to you continuing being on this journey because really, honestly, what I do want to do is help people like you change your story too, so that you can have more brilliant health and live a life that you know you want instead of a life that you're like, how did I get here? How many people feel like that? Because I, 3 years ago, I stood in front of my counter and I have ADD. So if it's not out where I can see it, I won't remember it. So I would keep all my sorry about my hair today, by the way. Um, I would keep all my medications on the counter because then when I would walk into the kitchen to get a glass of water, get a whatever, I would see the medications. It would trigger me. Oh, I need to take something. 13 medications sat on that counter. Okay. 13 of them. And I was taking them at different points during the day and some as needed. And I looked at those and I'm like, how did I get here? How did I get to the point where I went from world champion athlete to I can barely walk? How did my blood pressure get so out of control, even on medications? How come my hair is falling out and I have skin tags and I have dark skin patches and I have headaches and my teeth or gums are bleeding and my body's just literally falling apart? Does anybody else feel like that? Like sleep apnea, hormone dysregulation, I'm struggling with thyroid. I was, all of that stuff. I just felt like everything was out of control. And I know that if it happened to me, it's not the same now for me. It can happen for you too. And Nelda says, same here with the bathroom situation, but no more with FGS, right, Nelda? So, you guys, with the bathroom situation too, I remember this is going to get a little bit, but it's real. It's a story, right? So I remember I worked in construction offices years ago before moved to medical, and I always blamed the guys for the mess in the bathroom. And one day I had to realize, oh no, it was me from my extreme IBS. And it was embarrassing as a woman, right? To go into a bathroom where and at one point the bathroom that I had was like within 10 feet of the desks where the owner of and I worked. And I'm like, oh, this is horrible. And so on the system, within a few months, the first time I actually sat down to use the restroom in the morning and it was normal, I was blown away. Like, wait a minute. It's not like it's just not the same. It's normal and I don't have that devastating mess. And that's a relief in itself, much less all the other stuff. So Nelda, thanks for mentioning that because it was bad enough that I would not go to the store within an hour after I ate because I knew that within an hour after I ate, I was going to have to use the restroom. And if I was in the store and something happened, I could have a devastating accident in the store. And like, really, in my 50s, should life be like that? Should life be like I have to schedule my trips to the grocery store based on my pain and my bathroom habits, and that I have to run in, grab what I need, and get out? Should it be like that? Is there a reason why I don't go shopping anymore? Yeah, because those were the things that get me from shopping. It's a horrible way to live. Praying that this works for me because my daughter has severe IBS and weight gain. And absolutely, LJ, as you start to get results, you know what you can do, and I've seen so many families do, and I did it with my daughter too, was I just shared my product with her. Sure, it meant I was buying more, but when she started realizing, oh, my weight's better, my mood's better, my acne's better, my period cramps are better, my weight gain is better, my inflammation, all of those things got better for her. Then she was like, hey mom, I need to do this too. Okay. You have the opposite. Yours is severe constipation. So let's talk about that. Gastrointestinal issues, you guys, it's real and it's so bad for many of us, and we don't want to talk about it. Thank you guys for being vulnerable enough, Nelda. And who just said that? Sherry. Thank you guys for being vulnerable enough to talk about it so that everyone else can learn. So look, in this diet today that we have that's so deficient in fiber, we have some constipation and increased insulin resistance. We have some constipation. So with insulin resistance, if you weren't here when I was talking about fibromyalgia and nerve damage, part of what's happening with the constipation, I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen, and I'm sure you've been told you need to hydrate. Most of us are not drinking enough water. You need to get rest, and you need to exercise, right? So you need to rest when it's time to rest. You need to exercise when it's time to exercise. Your body's got to move. But beyond that, when we look at insulin resistance, insulin is damaging your nerves. from your mouth to your butt, it's starting to slow down the contraction rate of all of these organs, including your intestines. So if your intestines are just kind of numbed so much that they just cannot contract and move that through, and fiber's not there helping feed the microbiome and helping you get bulk so that it can move through. Now you have some constipation. Along with constipation comes food that's rotting in your gut, causing more inflammation and pain. And more inflammation causes increase in insulin, and more insulin causes increase in inflammation. And both of those cause an increase in constipation. So yeah, getting fiber in and addressing your insulin resistance can help you start to have normally functioning intestines and stomach. And that's important. You guys, something that want to say, we should be pooping every day, at least once a day. If you eat twice a day, you should be pooping twice a day. If you're not, you have an issue and you need to start paying attention. Look, when I was in my 30s, I didn't care. My dad told me all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, Dad, whatever. I'm healthy, I'm young, I'm good. You're just old. I don't care. In a few years, you're going to care because you're going to remember this lady told me all this stuff and I should have paid attention. And now I'm having all of these other issues, thyroid issues, hormone issues, weight gain issues, joint issues, memory issues, hair issues, bleeding teeth and gums, vertigo, all because you didn't take care of your gut when you were younger. You don't want that. Okay. You don't go for 10 to 12 days. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, whew. That's yeah, yeah. So that's not normal. You know that, right? That's not normal. That's very indicative of a digestive system that's being frozen up, that is not getting enough bulk, that really needs to clear some of that out. Okay. Our intestines are foldy little, crumply little, what is it, pug dog looking things inside. And there's lots of places for stuff to get stuck and trapped. If we're not cleaning it out, yeah, all that stool rotting inside, right? Right, Kathy? That's tremendous amount of inflammation and toxicity going on in your body. Something that you guys need to understand is that your gut holds your intestines hold 70% of your immune cells. When you have all this stuck poop, when you have all this inflammation, those immune cells are dying off and they're not working properly. So along with that fact that you only poop 10 to 12 days, once every 10 to 12 days, and you're having constipation, and you're probably having bloating and pain, and you're probably having inflammation throughout your body, and you're probably having headaches, and you're probably not feeling like eating right. And now you just have all of this issue, right? And that's rotting in your gut, causing more and more and more of the negative things. We got to get that moving through. One of the best ways, you guys, this is not Metamucil or Benefiber. They're that one source of fiber. This is fiber that's going to both help move the stuff through at a normal rate, but the fiber is also helping regulate those blood sugars so your insulin is not as high. Insulin is not causing the disruption in all the nerves that we were talking about before. And you're getting a little bit of satiety, but you're also building a really healthy gut microbiome. This is why I'm a nut for the fiber. Even though the protocol is 2 tea and 1 fiber a day, I drink 2 tea and 2 fiber a day. So I want my gut as healthy as it can be at 60 years old. I want to know that my hormones are in order, that all of the stuff, inflammation is down, my joints are working properly. And that is because I'm taking care of my gut. I wasn't taking care of my gut before, and I was riddled with everything up here. Okay. So, yeah, Sherry, and look at you guys. This is the protocol. You can find it in my profile, both the tea and so it looks like this. This is a day in the life, right? So a tea in the morning, a tea in the afternoon, and a pre-meal drink before I eat. That's it. That's the system. These 3 things, $5 a day. Now, I get it. Some people say that's too expensive. But I say being sick is too expensive. Sherry, so just use the link. And then what will happen is You'll get some emails from the company to tell you a lot of information about how to get started, what to do, taking measurements, writing down all of your stuff. And then you're going to get some texts and emails from me that allows you to be able to communicate with me as we're going through this so I can help you through it and help you change your story too. Okay. I look forward to seeing that happen because more importantly, I look forward to in 90 days hearing what your story is, or even in 30 days, because I had pretty tremendous change in 30 days as far as energy, mental clarity, and all of that. So you'll have direct access to me, and please use that. You guys, if you've ordered from me, look, I'm taking care of a bunch of people and I don't always get to call everybody every day, but if you text me, I'm going to be like, "Oh, Sherry texted. I need to talk to her." Okay. People should also be doing a parasite cleanse twice a year. Kathy, I do a parasite cleanse twice a year. I just am on the last few days of my parasite cleanse right now, and I'll do another one before Christmas. But yeah, I typically do that, but that's a personal choice, right? For most people, I think that if you start here, that's going to do good for you, building that good gut microbiome and helping your gut out a lot. But I do a parasite cleanse because our food is just imperfect today. And even before, we would have problems with parasites. So I agree with that. And we have a great parasite cleanse that looks like I take some herbal tablets in the morning that are helping release that bacteria and parasites from my intestinal walls. I follow it with a different fiber that's high in things. It's got like burdock root and marshmallow and uh, fiber and whatnot in it, but that fiber actually then comes in and sweeps out all of those toxins that were released. And then when I go to bed at night, there's an aloe tablet that I have that helps keep stuff moving along so it's not getting restuck and reabsorbed. And it does wonders. I was surprised. We're going to talk again. Today seems to be that gut health poopy kind of day, but the first time I did the cleanse, I was shocked because 2 years ago, everybody was talking about doing cleanses, right? And I'm like, yeah, does it really work? And so I tried it. And I worked in medical, so I'm used to looking at stool and all of this stuff all the time. So I'm looking in the toilet every day, like, yeah, is this really going to work? And oh my gosh, I actually saw worms and parasites in the stool and bubbling and just weird stuff as that was coming out. So it actually works. And I really um, recommend it. We have a woman who had severe cystic acne. She did our cleanse for 3 months in a row, along with the Feel Great system, and her acne cleared up. Okay. So acne can even be linked to insulin resistance, but it's also very highly linked to that dysregulation in your gut microbiome. And if you're suffering with cystic acne, these are two steps that you might want to take instead of medications is do the system to get your blood sugars under control, allow your gut microbiome to build, and then the parasite cleanse if that's a real problem for you to help get those toxins out of your system so that the system, the tea and the pre-meal drink can work even better. Okay. Good morning, John. I saw your live a little bit this morning. Okay. So we were talking about glucagon and I got off track. So I'm going to finish that up because I want you guys to understand glucagon and insulin as well. So remember, 2 hours after eating, your blood sugar spikes. 4 hours after eating, your blood sugar starts to drop. 8 hours after eating before insulin goes down. Insulin is anabolic, wants things to grow, so it's not going to let you break down fat. It's going to encourage fat storage. Okay. Now, at about 10 hours, glucagon comes out. And I've always touted glucagon as this amazing thing, and I still think it is. Both of them created by the pancreas. Insulin generally sends out a message that says, nope, no glucagon today because I'm out doing my job. With insulin resistance, those cues are no longer happening and glucagon starts coming out, irregardless of insulin being out. However, insulin still has control of your fat burning and fat breakdown. So even though glucagon is coming out to try and raise your blood sugars back up, insulin is saying you can't have access to the whole body. So glucagon is like going to your liver, trying to clean out this, but it's raising your blood sugar up. So you're never really getting into fat burning mode even though glucagon is out because insulin is still there saying, nope, you can't break down that fat. So what we need to do is get insulin down and glucagon up so glucagon can actually start breaking down the fat and burning it for fuel. It does that by breaking it down, giving you a source of energy. Now, in diabetes type 2, in some severe forms of insulin resistance, you can be resistant to insulin, have insulin present and glucagon present. Now you have high levels of blood sugar all the damn time. And your doctor's like, I don't know how to get your blood sugar down, when it really comes down to two hormones, insulin and glucagon. If we want glucagon to work properly and be able to have the best chance of doing what it's supposed to do, we have to get insulin levels down. When insulin levels come down, then glucagon can do its full job by burning fat for fuel. And that fat, by the way, intermittent fasting does not mean you're losing muscle. You're actually maintaining muscle while you're getting rid of the fat and the toxins. So when glucagon comes out, it's going to scavenge. And it's not going to just say, oh, we're going to eat muscle up because we're hungry. It's going to say, hey, these cells over here, they're no longer viable. They're kind of dying off and they need to go. Let's utilize them for energy. This fat over here, there's way too much of that. We're going to utilize that for energy. Insulin's gone. We can start tearing all this stuff down so we can rebuild a prettier, newer house, right? So we got to wash the house sometimes so we can get it clean again. Glucagon is doing that, but it can't do it when insulin is present co-concurrently with it. So they can both be up in the same body at the same time, which is something I was confused about before. But when glucagon is up and insulin is up, it's still true that insulin is blocking that fat breakdown and encouraging fat storage. So we need to intermittent fast. And for some of you, intermittent fasting is going to take a while for that to change your body, because your body is used to having both of these hormones out, used to trying to get your sugar levels up. And so your body really doesn't know how to use fat because it's been inundated by both glucagon and or insulin and glucagon all the time. Intermittent fasting allows us to get rid of that sugar and the insulin cue. Now, when insulin comes down with intermittent fasting and glucagon comes out, it's doing the job it's supposed to. Now, when we start to eat more fats, which is step 3, remember fiber, protein, and fats. When we start to eat more fats, what's really happening is you're not raising your cholesterol in your bloodstream if you're eating extra virgin olive oil, avocado, coconut, butter, ghee, and the animal fats. You're not increasing your cholesterol. You're training your body to burn fat for fuel. So intermittent fasting is important because we're allowing our body to understand how to use our fuel sources, sugar or fat. Okay. Insulin down, we can start to burn fat for fuel. And the fat for fuel energy is amazing. The energy you get from burning fat for fuel is crazy good. It's like this high level of energy that's stable and solid, unlike the energy from sugar where you have these spikes and drops, spikes and drops. The fat for fuel is a lot more steady, and it's a whole different feeling. But your body needs to be able to use both sugar and fat, or glucose and fat. And currently your body probably isn't using both. So part of the goal of the system is it's helping us train our body to do that. We can use sugar when we need to, we can use fat when we need to, and we start to have healthier bodies all around because of it. And to do that, all I've had to do is have the tea in the morning, the tea in the afternoon, and then the pre-meal drink before I eat. So again, the tea gives me energy, mental clarity. It gives me a lot of components. There's so much in this tea, like antioxidants, anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory properties. Those are all great, right? But this is helping me feel full, both in my brain and in my gut, through specific chemical reactions. I talked about them in a video that's in the tea tab on my TikTok. And then, so I have another one in the afternoon, and I always have 2 of these a day. The other day I wasn't feeling well and I skipped my tea in the morning. I just was not even a thought, ADD. And all of a sudden, mid-morning, I'm like, I'm hungry. I'm tired. What's going on? Well, I hadn't had my tea. So I went and mixed up my tea, went about my day. Everything was fine. Now, when I eat, whether I'm eating all protein or whether I'm having protein and carbs, I always have this, because it's not just about having the protein and carbs. I want my gut health to be optimal. So I'm a fiber nut. Now that I know, and I can't unknow. I love fiber for what it does for my blood sugar regulation, my lipid regulation, my gut health, which means less inflammation, less headaches, less fatigue, all of that, because I got my gut healthy and I'm regulating blood sugars and I'm regulating lipids. And this starts to swell up, unlike the other fibers, and helps me feel fuller right away. So I'm less overeating, and I the food sticks with me longer because of the fiber. The doctor said he doesn't do phone calls. He only does in-person appointments. Oh, Crafty, I'm not sure. Is that for you or your mom? Okay, so that's the system. You guys understand that we have to get insulin under control to start getting our health under control. And the simplest thing is this system, two products, about $5 a day. You get a 90-day money back guarantee, you get a quality guarantee, and you get coaching from me, but you also get a low price guarantee, which means that you're never paying more than I pay. I've been doing this for 3 years. And I was just writing up some information because what I want you to know is 6 years ago, I had 6 years ago, I had one knee replaced, or I had both hips replaced. I didn't have the knee replaced until 3 years ago. But I was also a world champion athlete, but I knew my body was falling apart. I never imagined as I was squatting over 400 pounds and deadlifting 500 pounds and bench pressing almost 300 pounds and in the gym for 3 hours a day, I would have never imagined a day when I didn't even want to walk. A day when walking into the gym was probably the hardest thing I could do. I never imagined a day where I went to a gym where the workout room was on the top floor and I had to take the elevator up to work out because my body was failing. That was my life. And then I got diagnosed with diabetes. And then the doctors were throwing medications at me and I was trying all this stuff and nothing worked. And one day I saw this bald headed man talking about the protocol I'm talking about. And I'm like, Hail Mary, I got to do something. Something has to change. And it has all the guarantees. So at the worst, I'm going to spend 90 days to get this back. And if it doesn't work, I get all that money back. So bonus, right? Win-win. And yet 90 days in, I had lost 25 pounds. I no longer had to use a walker or a cane. My skin tags were going away. This dark coloration on my skin was going away. The hair that was falling out was growing back in. My eyesight went from 3.0 diopter to 1.75 diopter in my glasses. At 57 years old, I reversed eye damage. Yeah, because I got the insulin resistance under control. Okay. Um, but my body was just failing. And I had to take an elevator, and a lot of people don't know this, but my good friend Steffi does because she was right alongside me with all of it. Or I had to have handrails because it wasn't so much that it was that my legs hurt, my hips and my joints hurt, my muscles hurt, and I couldn't go up and down stairs. I would actually have to use my arms and grab the rails and pull myself up the stairs because my legs alone wouldn't do it. I never imagined I would be at that point. But you know what? Now, because of this system and all the stuff I've been talking about, I walk up and down stairs carrying bags of groceries. I can run up and down stairs. I can go up or downstairs without handrails. How? How does all of that reverse at my age? Simple, because I started giving my body the nutrition it needs and the attention it needs and adding these two products in. Anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer, antioxidant, high in vitamins and minerals, gives me the fiber and the gut microbiome that I need while keeping me full and healthy for a long time, not just a short time. So that's all I had to do, guys. I wanted to talk a little bit about GLP-1 this morning, but I've been on here for a while. Why don't I talk about the GLP-1 a little bit more tomorrow? Because I think it's important that you understand the difference between these high amounts of GLP. And now we'll just talk about it real briefly now because it's like on my mind. GLP-1, glucagon like peptide 1, they're those drugs that they're giving you to inject. By the way, those things cost $300 to $1,500 a month. So $5 a day or $300 a month for something that's tearing up your health. I don't know. I choose the $5 a day for something that's building my health. But the GLP-1 drugs, you're injecting them once a week. Now, if you understand GLP-1, you understand that it's highly sensitive. It breaks down in your body pretty quickly. So, and it should. We should elicit GLP-1 when we need it, which gives us some satiety. It gives us some sugar protection. It gives us a lot of really good things. It can give us some mental clarity and whatnot too. But we want that GLP-1 to rise when we need it. We want it to fall when we don't. And that's a normal reaction in the body. The GLP-1 drugs that you're injecting, and you inject them once a week, you're injecting them because they can't go through your liver or it will get broken down. But they've also been modified and manufactured to the point where they don't break down, and you can take an injection once a week. So now we have a hormone called a glucagon, or a peptide called a glucagon-like peptide 1 that's been genetically modified so that it won't break down in your body, and we have it present all the time. Do you guys feel like anytime that there's something like that going on, Houston, we have a problem? Because having those injections is like on a 1 to 10 of glucagon-like peptide acting in your body, it's like an 11. It never shuts off. Now we're starting to see people with pancreatic problems, people with liver problems, people with heart problems, people with thyroid problems, and the worst of all, that high level of glucagon-like peptide all the time shuts down your intestines. So now they're not contracting and moving. So, Sherry from earlier, if your intestines are not contracting and moving, you are going to be constipated. And if you're already having problems with constipation and only going to the bathroom every 10 to 12 days or every couple of days, and then you get put on something like glucagon, like peptide 1, that's constant in your body, your intestines are shutting down their effect. Instead of squeezing, they're starting to slow down, and they get frozen. And now you have all of this stuck food sitting in your belly, rotting. And of course, you don't feel like eating. Of course you don't. So you have rotting food building up in your gut that's not moving through. And with that, you're getting inflammation and you're getting all of these other health issues. But who cares? Because you got your blood sugar down and you started losing some weight, but you got really sick in the process, right? No, you would never get those shots. Causes gastroparesis. Exactly, Sherry. That's exactly why I was bringing you up, because you should never, ever look at those drugs for that reason. And I will say that part with complete, that's just how I feel, right? But if we raise our glucagon like peptide naturally, now we get the satiety we need. We get a little bit of gut distension, but not gut freezing. And we're allowing our body to do its work naturally. But we can increase our normal production of glucagon like peptide. Remember, our normal production, which is going to be there when it needs to, degrade when it doesn't, which is how it should be. We can increase that by up to 70% with the tea that I'm talking about. Scientifically proven to increase your GLP-1, natural GLP-1, by up to 75%. Now, 70%. Now, that, as opposed to one that's genetically modified to never break down, that's causing all those problems, I would rather do this and get all the health benefits while skipping all the health problems. That's why these pictures are up here. No more shots that are causing you all of those issues. No more pills that are causing you all kinds of pain and discomfort. Just nutrition. I want you guys to think of this not as a supplement. This is nutrition. What we're doing is putting back what's been stripped out of our food so that our body can react normally to the food that we are eating and do the job it's supposed to do. And you start feeling better than you have in years, right? Crafty, yeah. You know what? I had an amazing doctor. Um, but yet I was frustrated with my care. I love my doctor. We're friends. She's now working for a native health clinic over in Washington State, and I'm in Maryland. And I haven't talked to her for a while, but she's been very impressed now that she knows. But I had to do it first. I just had to take off and do it first. And then she was like, wait a minute. I worked on your blood pressure for years and it never came down. How is your blood pressure 112 over 70 every morning now? How? Well, this is how. It wasn't a statin drug. It wasn't a water pill. It wasn't nitric oxide. It wasn't any of those things. It was this. This is all I did to take my blood pressure from 180 over 150 down to 112 over 70 every single morning. So what are the packets? They're a system that we use to help with insulin resistance, diabetes, all the stuff up above is linked to those instead of medications. Now, people that are on medications, work with your doctor to come off of them. I'm not telling you that. I chose to stop mine because I'm autonomous and I can do what I want. And I do most of the time. But It's two teas, a tea that I have in the morning, a tea that I have in the afternoon, and a pre-meal drink. What they do is they help give you satiety, they help give you mental clarity, they help with heart health, they help you regulate blood sugars and blood lipids. Okay. So, and they're scientifically proven. You guys, some people don't care. I care. One of the reasons I do what I do is because there's enough science behind these that these products are actually in the prescriber's digital reference. You can go to the other companies, I don't know, GNC, Nutrilife, all of those places, and you don't find their products in the PDR because there's not enough science and clinical studies behind those products. These, we have 18 real food products in the PDR because we're a scientific company, really, really focused on helping people with their metabolic health. So this is what I do instead of medications. Now, when we talk about the cost part, I know, I get it, you guys. I really get it. When I started, okay, let's talk about my life real quick because hope maybe it resonates with some of you. I was 57 years old, had been through a divorce, had worked two jobs all my life. I worked to prove that I was worth something, so I became a world champion so that I could disprove all these messages in my life that said you were never going to be anything. But I still was suffering financially and with my health. And I worked from home and I just was not getting better. This system at that point in time felt like an amazing stretch for me to even be able to afford it. But I knew that if I didn't change something, I wouldn't be here. I mean, literally, you guys, I used to go to sleep worrying that I wouldn't live to be 65 because my health was so bad, because my blood pressure was out of control, because of all of these things. I don't go to sleep with those thoughts anymore. I get to have regular interactions with my family. I get to get out and play and swim and run and do all the stuff I want to do that was impossible 3 years ago. It changed my life. Two real food products. I got me off of 13 medications. Those 13 medications, $10 a copay for those. That's $130 a month anyway. And it was not helping. Instead, I spent about $150 a month on something that has absolutely changed my health and got rid of all of those drugs. So, plus I'm spending less on food. I don't go buy all the snackety snack stuff anymore. I'm not constantly craving food all the time. I'm eating food that's healthy and nutritious for my body, supported by the nutrients in these two things, and my entire health has changed. And that's all it is, you guys. It's I say it's all it is, but both are patented and specifically scientifically designed to help impact your metabolism in a positive way. And that's why I'm here talking about it. All right. You guys, it is that time. I have to go do some other stuff. Thank you for joining me. We'll talk some more tomorrow. If you're on the fence about ordering, look, what I'm going to tell you is just do it. Just do it, right? Because your future starts today. And if you don't change something today, you're going to have the same day in the future that you have today. Okay. If you want better health, if you want a better life, if you want something to change, you have to start with the change today. Stop saying tomorrow I will, because tomorrow you're going to say tomorrow I will. And the next day you're going to say tomorrow I will. And the next day you're going to say tomorrow I will. And then 5 years from now, you're going to be right where you're at now. And you're going to be wondering why something didn't change. You got to make the change to see the change. For me, that was just starting with the system. I didn't understand insulin resistance. I didn't understand any of that when I started. I just knew that I had to change something in order to change my life. And it worked. And here I am 3 years later. It's still working. And I'm still recommending it. And I hope that if you've heard me, that you give it a shot, because in the end, you getting your health back is the most important thing of all of this. So we'll see you guys tomorrow and we'll talk some more about insulin resistance. I'm going to look up these couple things. There was one about lipids and there was one about biceps and arms getting tight and hurting after eating. And I'll try to have some answers for those for you tomorrow. Crafty, good luck on your journey. And yeah, I know you guys, it's harder and harder to find doctors, and more doctors have less and less space. Working in a doctor's office, it was frustrating to see how many people just could not get into the doctor because their books were just booked. But do the best you can to find a doctor who's going to listen to you and hear you because they have a degree, but you live in your body. Okay. So we'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day, you guys. And thanks for joining me again today. And Cheryl, everybody over here, thank you. And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.